Hey, it's Lara here. Welcome to this week's astrology forecast. So this one's for the week of May 5th to the 11th, 2021. Thanks for being here. So right at the end of this week, right? Because we go Wednesday to Wednesday in these videos. So actually on Tuesday, May 11th, we have a new moon in Taurus, and that's what we're going to focus on in the video today. I'm looking forward to talking to you about this. As you've heard me mention in the last couple of videos, this particular moon cycle that we're in right now has been quite potent, and it's really paving the way, for this upcoming new moon in Taurus. So we're going to talk about that and how that's impacting you based on your sign. And I'll give you a few questions to mull over to help you lay the groundwork or to help you work with the energy of this new moon best. Right now, as I'm recording this, the moon is in Pisces, and it's a gray, rainy day. The moon in Pisces, the best of times is nice for kind of just curling up on the couch and watching some movies, but it really feels like that today. But that's not going to happen. So we make the best use of that energy by doing things like maybe if you have an opportunity to engage in something creative or artistic, or watching a movie or listening to some music, creating something, injecting a little romance into the day, exercising your compassion muscles. Those are all good things to do when the moon is in Pisces. And the moon's going to move off into Aries on Friday for the weekend. And that is an opportunity to be a bit more active, right? Moon in Aries is much more fired up than it is in Pisces. And so it's a good time for doing something more active and maybe physical even, and just being mindful of, emotional inflammation sort of thing, right? And not doing anything intentionally to kind of inflame the emotions or the emotions of other people. So after that, the moon moves into Taurus on Sunday night, where she really loves to be. The moon is exalted in Taurus, and we are moving towards that new moon that's happening on Monday, the 11th, or Tuesday, the 11th, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the video. So that's where the moon is at. And if you want to get a better idea of how to, best work with the moon as she's moving through the zodiac signs each month, because the moon spends about 2.5 days in each sign every month. And when we pay attention to that, it can be really helpful to planning our own lives to the degree that we can do that, but also to just being aware of how we're responding to the energy when the moon moves through different signs, right? And so I have, over on my current website, I have a free guide to working with the moon for you over there. And some of you may have grabbed that already. And if you haven't, then you can still do that. But I made an announcement last week that I'm moving everything over to a new platform, to a new website that I'm in the process of building myself. And so if you want to get that guide and get on my mailing list for my new site, then you can go to astrologymaven.com, and there'll be a pop-up there where it says coming soon, and you can put your first name and your email, and you'll get an email for the downloads, and you'll get an email asking you if you want to subscribe. So I'm going to put the link below to that. And even if you're an existing subscriber, I'm going to do my best to send an email to my existing subscribers to bring them over to the new site. But, if you're an existing subscriber and you haven't grabbed that guide, or you just want to make sure you're on that mailing list, then hop on over there and you can get on the new mailing list, and I'll announce when the new site goes live. So, and I'm really, really excited about this. Last week I said I'm nervous sighted about it, because it's a lot of work, but it's been something that I've sort of been wanting to do for some time, for a lot of reasons. And I think it's just going to be better for everyone. And I'm going to be able to do more of the things that I've been wanting to do for a while. So, astrologymaven.com. Okay. And enough about that. Now, I just want to mention to you a few things that are happening prior to that new moon on Tuesday, the 11th. So Monday night, Mercury entered Gemini, and Mercury is at home in Gemini, right? We touched on this in last week's video briefly, I think. So Mercury's at home in Gemini. Mercury is comfortable there. Mercury can do Mercury things with efficiency and effectiveness when Mercury is in Gemini. And what are Mercury things? Well, Mercury is the messenger god, right? And Mercury likes to, or Mercury sort of helps us to gather and disseminate information. It governs our sort of sociability. It speaks to things like marketing and commerce and our ideas and thoughts and communications. So Mercury and Gemini is good because, like I was saying, when a sign is at home, right, or when a planet is in its home sign, rather, then it can do its job more effectively. So that's good news for Mercury and for all of us. So look to the sign that Gemini, or the house that Gemini sits for you, and you'll get an idea of where a lot of communications and potentially things surrounding technology, ideas, information, maybe even things, it could, sometimes Mercury involves vehicles, short back and forth trips, that kind of thing. So if you look to the Gemini house in your chart, you can get a sense of, where that energy is taking place for you. And on that note, as Mercury's now entered Gemini, Venus is soon to follow, and eventually the Sun, right? And we will get this injection of mutable energy, the shift from the fixed energy of Taurus that we have been in and that we are still in. But we will be gradually moving into that more mutable energy, right? So mutable energy is more adaptable, more changeable, more wavering, as opposed to the fixed, stable, kind of stubborn energy of Taurus, right? Fixed Earth. So that's something to take note of. Thursday, on the 6th, so May 6th, we have Venus in Taurus. Venus is at home in Taurus. You've heard me mention that before. Trining Pluto in Capricorn, fellow Earth sign Capricorn, right? And so a trine is a conversation between planets that is a harmonious one. It's a conversation of ease and flow. And so, and support. So there is this support and harmony between our, potentially our resources and relationships, Taurus, or Venus in Taurus. And the Pluto process that's been underway for us in Capricorn for quite some time, which, we saw reach a real crescendo in 2020, but it's still ongoing as Pluto is hovering around the last few degrees of Capricorn. And so, this is a harmonious conversation between those energies. And then on the 9th, on Saturday, we have Venus in Taurus, squaring Jupiter in Aquarius, right at the very last degree of Taurus and Aquarius. So right before Venus moves into Gemini, right before Jupiter moves into Pisces, which we talked about in last week's video. Definitely listen to that if you haven't, because that is relevant for, the the whole like mid-May through to the end of July, and then for a large part of 2022 as well. So I'll put the link below to that video, and you can, if you haven't checked it out yet, you can. So, you know, we've got this kind of a square is generally a conversation of tension. But Venus and Jupiter are two benefics, and Venus is at home in Taurus, right? And so there may be some tension going on between things like, you know, relationships, resources, aesthetic, things involving art, maybe even things involving women, these, you know, Venus themes, and themes surrounding are like the bigger picture, justice, morality, our worldview, the kind of you know, Jupiter is the teacher, right? The Saturn is also a teacher. Jupiter is more of the guru, right? Even though, as I've said before, I don't love that word, but it does the job. And Jupiter has this sense of looking to the future with optimism. Jupiter is the planet that is associated with bringing us good fortune, and optimism, and, you know, a sense of abundance and growth. But Jupiter grows whatever it touches, right? And so sometimes that can be taken to extremes. So, you know, there may be some tension there between the Aquarius and the Taurus houses of our chart, but whatever this tension is, it's kind of like for the betterment in some way, right? It's to improve things. It's to make things more abundant. It's to, you know, it's to improve our resources in some way, or something about, you know, justice, various themes that I spoke to there. So not all tension is bad. Let's put it that way. And this tension between the Taurus and the Aquarius houses in our chart is not something unfamiliar to us at this point, because we've got Uranus in Taurus, Saturn in Aquarius squaring on and off all 2021, right? The signature aspect, the signature conversation of 2021 is that square between Saturn and Uranus. And so, and it's reaching its second exact point, which is happening in June. So we're building towards that energy. And this conversation between Venus and Jupiter may have something to do with that. It will likely have something to do with that overall picture of what's going on in the Taurus area, right, of your chart, and what's going on in the Aquarius area of your chart, which we have addressed in past videos when we've spoken about Saturn and Uranus, the Saturn and Uranus square. So that's going on. I spent a little more time on that than I intended, but I think it's important because it does play into that bigger picture that's playing out over the year with that square. And then on Monday the 10th, we have Mercury, who will be in Gemini at the time, conjunct the North Node at about 10 degrees. Mercury is moving pretty fast, and then it's going to start slowing down because it will retrograde later on in May. But it is moving into a conjunction with the North Node. And the North Node is our trajectory, right? It is what we are moving towards, ideally. It is what we are being called to in some way. It can also be something that is a bit insatiable. So, we can feel like our north node, wherever the north node is in our personal natal charts, can feel like a point where we're kind of, like drawn to this, just instinctually drawn to it. And sometimes to the point of like really, really like, it's like realm of the hungry ghosts, right? I've used that phrase before. It's, I don't know if you're familiar with Gabor Mate's work, but anyway, where it's just like insatiable, where we just can't get enough. And so that's the part of our north node that we need to be mindful of. But it is sort of like, our soul's calling, what our soul is calling us towards in this lifetime, in this incarnation. And so collectively, the north node is in Gemini right now, right? And it's really interesting to kind of look back and to see where we're currently at as well. The north node spends about 18 months in one sign. And so, as the north node entered the mutable signs of Gemini and Sagittarius, and I can't remember the exact date, I should have written that down, but it was like information highway, right? Which is Gemini, like so much information and having to make decisions and having to weed through things in terms of like what's important, what's not important. Just, being hit with information overload and navigating our sense of meaning. That's the Sagittarius piece. There was a lot of stuff around travel, and travel bans obviously has been going on, with COVID. So that's been quite interesting. And of course, we each have Gemini somewhere in our chart, and Sagittarius, which is the opposite, where the south node is, right? And so that axis is going through this sort of karmic process. And I will talk about that in more detail when I talk about the next eclipses that are coming up in this on this axis of Gemini Sagittarius, because we're nearing the end of this story. We will have the final eclipse at the end of this year in that eclipse family, in that series. And so, there's some story going on here that every time we have an eclipse, it's kind of like the next layer of the onion is peeled back, right? And we're going to have an eclipse at the end of May on the 26th. And so I will talk more about this as we get closer to that time. And then the thing about, so let me circle back. I did say the moon was in Pisces, right? That can make you a little bit, especially when Neptune's there. And I have my sun in Pisces as well. And where, sometimes it just makes me a little loopy when there's stuff going on in Pisces. So anyway, Mercury in Gemini coming into a conjunction with the North Node on Monday. And so at this time, there can be this like, Mercury is kind of getting a piece of information. It's getting intel, from the North Node about what's going on in the Gemini area. What's this eclipse story about for us? Maybe what, tweaking us to something there. And it can quite literally be like just a lot of communication or messages exchanged or information coming in or ideas or thoughts, happening around that time about things related to the Gemini area of our chart. And that actually, as Mercury's going to conjunct the North Node, and right after that will sextile Chiron in Aries, right? So sextile is a conversation of opportunity and support. And Chiron in Aries, just to put it in a sentence, is about healing our identity. in some way. And that's what Chiron in Aries is doing as it moves through there. And so there seems to be some connection between what's going on in Gemini and some form of, like, whatever that is ultimately, you know, whatever piece of information Gemini collects, or whatever thought comes to mind, whatever idea, whatever maybe exchange, conversation happens, whatever happens in, it could be something related to commerce. It could be something related to technology, to vehicles, to, a short trip that you take. There's something here about that's giving you a little boost there to your maybe state of well-being, right? To whatever the healing process is that Chiron in Aries is digging up for you around, your identity, who you are, and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much the lead up of, the week towards this new moon in Taurus on the 11th. So let's talk about that now. All right, so the new moon in Taurus is happening at 3 p.m. Eastern time, so you can adjust accordingly if you're elsewhere in a different time zone. And it's at 21 degrees of Taurus, right? Fixed earth sign. And this is a prime opportunity for really planting seeds in the very fertile earth of Taurus and having something really quite beautiful and pleasurable and solid and bringing us a sense of stability, grow there. So I want to show you the chart, and then we'll dig a little deeper into that. So, okay, so here's the chart. Here we've got, there's Uranus and Taurus, and there's the new moon, the sun and the moon coming together at 21 degrees Taurus to birth something new, right? New moons are always the sun and the moon together. And then we still have, we have at that time, we have Venus, who will have entered Gemini following Mercury. And there's the North Node in Gemini as well, right? And then we have Pluto, I was mentioning here, at 26 Capricorn. And we have, there's Neptune in Pisces. There's Jupiter just getting ready to move out of Aquarius and go home to Pisces for a little bit. And there's Chiron in Aries. And the one thing I didn't mention to you is here's Mars here down in Cancer, right? So Mars in Cancer, you can see it's making some sort of inflammatory conversations, as Mars tends to do. And I didn't mention that. So Mars in Cancer is in its fall. So Mars does not like to be in Cancer, not comfortable there. We've talked about that in the past. And it is making one trickier conversation and one conversation that's a little bit more helpful. So it's right around the same time as this new moon is happening, on the same day. And it will make a square to Chiron, right? And then a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And so there is, again, some healing triggers potentially around our identity, our place in the tribe kind of thing, our sense of emotional security, maybe something around like mothering. I mean, Mother's Day is this coming weekend on Sunday, so that might, that's not always a warm fuzzy thing for a lot of people, and we don't often. I think we're getting better at it, but we're not. Historically, we haven't been so great at admitting that or acknowledging that, right? And so, maybe that's for some people what the deal is, that those that wounding is kind of triggered in some way. But there is something surprising may support you, or someone surprising, with Uranus in Taurus sextiling Chiron. Or sextiling Mars. I'm sorry, sextiling Mars. And so there may be something, something uncomfortable, but then something that sort of puts a Band-Aid on it, that makes it maybe not so bad, sort of thing. So I didn't mention that, and I wanted to mention that. But this new moon is having two conversations that are quite supportive. So aside from the moon being in the sign of its exaltation, where it is kind of like when a planet is in exaltation, it's like it's being held up on a throne, sort of thing, right? Revered. And it's like, oh, come into my house and put your feet up, and I'll get you a drink, and I'll get you a snack, and make yourself at home, kind of thing. That's what the moon in Taurus is like. The moon in Venus's sign, right? Venus is the host of the moon, and so Venus is a gracious host, and so the moon is exalted in Taurus, and then we also have the new moon sextiling Neptune in Pisces, and we also have a trine to Pluto. So those are both positive conversations. And they are conversations that are happening with the outer slower moving planets, right? So when a slower moving planet is triggered, it may be something that is sensed on a more subtle level, or something that plays out over a longer time. But it tends to have a more lasting or profound impact. And so, things may transpire that we may not get the full picture about at the time of this new moon, but, sort of off in the distance, we're getting a sense that this is something good. And so with the moon sextiling Neptune in Pisces, that sextile is a conversation of opportunity, right? Where the two planets involved are helping each other out. And so Neptune in Pisces is Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, and so in its home sign, and really, the some key words for Neptune in Pisces: big compassion, sense of otherworldliness, being connected to the whole, merging with the whole, empathy, creativity, big dreams. The one risk here is there can be a bit of a rose-colored glasses thing going on, right? Or a sense of delusion, or not really being able to see things clearly. But the conversation is one of opportunity and support. And so it's like this new moon is kicking off something that has a sense of dreaminess, like I've dreamed about this for so long, and I'm getting the sense that maybe, just maybe, it could happen, or I could make this, a reality. So there's that. And then Jupiter's about to enter Pisces too, right? Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces, and will have much greater dignity than it's had in a couple of years, as I talked about in last week's video. So that when that happens, that may give us even further insight into, like, okay, what's You know, what's on the agenda here? Like what good things could possibly come out of this? And then we have Pluto in a trine with the new moon. And so a trine is a conversation of ease and flow and harmony, right? And so there is this like a sense of like Pluto or the moon tapping into the transformational process that we're all undergoing, particularly in relation to the Capricorn area of our chart. You know, that's been an ongoing story. And there is a sense of ease about that, that maybe we haven't experienced in some time, right? So that's what's going on in relation to this new moon. And overall, it's like we have been preparing the soil, and particularly in the Taurus house in our chart. And you know, when we've like, if we've done that, then whatever we plant there has a chance to really take root and to grow strong and healthy, and to withstand the disruptions that Uranus may bring about in that area of the chart. And if you know, if that's not something you've given a lot of thought to, it may be something that you've been doing not really knowingly, or in retrospect, you look back and you go, oh yeah, that is what has been going on. But if you don't have a sense of that, now's the time, right? To kind of add the nutrients and the fertilizers and adjust the pH and, you know, weed the garden and prune the deadwood and all of that kind of thing. That really potent full moon in Scorpio that we had, which is Taurus's opposite sign recently, really clued us in to some things there that, you know, need to be released, need to be purged, let go of. And so we likely have a sense of, you know, the changes afoot in the Taurus area of our lives. And it's a really fertile time at this new moon to plant whatever seeds of intention. You know, it's like we've made a decision about what we want to grow here. And now's the time in this healthy soil to plant these seeds and to really, really nurture them, right? So I'm going to lead you through a few questions, and then I'm going to take you through the signs and speak to you about where this is happening in your own life and in your own chart, so you can get a greater sense of where it's prime time to really start something new, to begin something new, to set new intentions, to take on a new opportunity, that sort of thing. All right, so here are the questions for you. First question: have I let go of the dead weight that may have been holding me back from optimizing my resources, or connecting to pleasure, or relating to, maybe even relating to like food or nature, or, you know, in a more healthy way, or a sense of material stability? You know, like, have I let go of anything that's holding me back from any of those things? And if not, now's the time, right? If you're listening to this prior to the new moon, then we're in the waning moon phase. And so it's a time to release, to start winding down, to start wrapping up the loose ends, that kind of thing, in preparation for the new moon. And like I said, the full moon in Scorpio that we had recently shone a light on that. The sun and the moon were opposite each other. The moon was in Scorpio, the sun was in Taurus, right? Reflecting each other there. So that axis was triggered. And so if there still needs to be loose ends wrapped up, things let go of, released, then now's the time to do that. All right, next question. Is there something here that can boost my capacity to earn? Maybe earn more income, to stabilize my resources in some way, to bring me more pleasure in some way. Is there something in that Taurus area of the chart that you can harness to help with any of those things? And maybe something that you haven't, some pieces that you haven't necessarily considered, or you've considered them and you've thought about them, but you haven't put them into motion yet, right? So the time of this new moon is the time to start doing that. Just like Taurus would do, step by step, one foot in front of the other. So the next question has to do with Uranus and Taurus. And so who is prompting us to innovate, right? And destabilizing that area of our chart in some way. But because Uranus, knows that change is necessary. So the question is, what new or innovative approaches can I take to creating a more solid foundation? Particularly in the Taurus house, but also as it relates to Taurus themes of resources and pleasure and, even connection to nature, that kind of thing. All right, next question. What can I keep that is still helpful, right? So Saturn is over there in Aquarius, squaring the Taurus house in our chart. And Saturn doesn't want us to just cut everything off and throw the baby out with the bathwater and, clean the slate and start all over again. That's not what Saturn wants us to do. Saturn is about tradition and structure, and, the status quo in many ways, and teaching us lessons and having us learn from those lessons, right? And so what are the things that are still helpful? Maybe those are lessons that you've learned. Maybe those are some kind of like structures or foundations. Maybe those are relationships or connections or contacts in some way. Technology, ideas, belongings. It could be sort of just about anything, but are there things that you can keep that are still helpful, so you don't have to start completely from scratch, that can help you I don't want to use the word shortcut because Saturn doesn't really like shortcuts, but and technically it's not a shortcut because you've done the work, but it's like that can help you from here, right? Like they can be a jumping off point. You can utilize those resources you already have in some way. All right, next question. How can I tap into Taurus's sort of steely determination and capacity for patience in order to, like I said, keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? Specifically in relation to the themes of the Taurus house in your chart. So like, it's not about everything happening overnight in Taurus. Although Uranus there, we may have those moments of like flash insight or those electrifying moments or those plot twists that happen. But overall, whatever we're building here is taking time. So be patient. All right. What's next? So for those of you who know what house Pisces sits for you and what house Capricorn sits for you, then is there support or help on offer from the Pisces house where Neptune is, right? And where Jupiter is about to enter mid-May, and the Capricorn house where there's that trine to Pluto. Are there helpers there? Is there support on offer in relation to those houses? One more question. What information and relationship building is Venus primed for in Gemini, right? So the ruler of Taurus, which is where this new moon is, will be in Gemini at the time of this new moon. And so, Venus is over there in Gemini. What's Venus doing over there in Gemini? Like, get a sense of that. It's like, how can Venus in Gemini have a positive impact on our relationships, on our resources, on our sense of pleasure, right? So Venus is over there kind of, schmoozing in Gemini a little bit and trying to help us out. So, okay, I think that's all for the questions, and I'm going to take you through the signs now. And I really, I feel a bit like, the Pisces moon is kind of kicking me in the ass a little bit. There's been a lot going on. What's new over here as well. And I do, I have a lot on the brain. So, and Mercury has moved into Gemini, which is just kind of amplifying all of that. So anyway, we're going to take it through the signs, and we're going to speak to, like, what house is this happening? What house is this new moon taking place for you? And what are the themes that are ripe for something new to be planted and worked on and grown? And I want to mention to you that this new moon is particularly impacting those folks that have placements between around 16 to 26 degrees. So that's like 5 degrees on either side of the new moon. Of course, the closer you get to 21 degrees, the more personal it gets. But of the fixed signs. So if you have your sun, your moon, your rising sign, if you have like a personal planet like your Venus or your Mars or your Mercury, or if you have, a collection of planets are right around the 21 degree of the fixed signs, particularly Taurus, but also Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, then this new moon is more, as I said, more personal for you, right? So let's begin with Taurus, because this is Taurus's new moon. And it's like your yearly rebirth for you, Taurus. If you're a Taurus sun sign, this is really your the fresh start for you for the year. And if you're a Taurus rising, this is happening in your first house, right? And you know that the way I do these horoscopes is based on, first and foremost, rising sign in a general forecast like this. And so that's what you would listen to first, but you can also listen to your sun sign and your moon sign for added information, and they will resonate. So Taurus rising, this is impacting your first house, right? So it is like you're kind of stepping out as a whole new you in some way, or you have the opportunity to do that, to really plant some seeds for growing a whole new you in some way, for beginning something around this time that you wish to grow into, a rooted, healthy entity, right? And so that could be you're starting something new in relation to your physical appearance, a new look, a new wardrobe, some new clothes, new hairdo. God, I wish I could get a new hairdo. We're still on lockdown here, and oh boy, let me tell you. But so it's been a long time since the hair has had some TLC. But you could be somewhere different and have the opportunity for that for yourself. Or like I said, some new wardrobe, or you are preparing to maybe launch a new business or new website, or something that will showcase you, right? And that will be put your personality out there in the world. The first house speaks to how we project ourselves out into the world, how the world perceives us, right? How we come at the world. It could have to do with your physical body in some way. There's something going on that you are intending to develop as far as that goes. Maybe a workout routine that will change your appearance in some way. Those things are possible. The first house is really, as you've heard me say before, it's a biggie, because when things transpire in the first house, it's like the launching off point for everything else, right? And so it can have an impact on our overall lives. And so this new moon for you, Taurus, is really something to pay attention to. And you've got that support, over the long haul from Neptune and Pisces and Pluto and Capricorn, right? As well, like we talked about in the introduction. So I'm going to leave that there for you, Taurus, and I'm going to move on to Aries now, where Aries, you have this new moon in your second house. So this is prime opportunity, to plant some new intentions, some new seeds in this fertile Taurus soil. And to nurture those so that they grow really strong roots and they have resilience and that kind of thing in relation to your resources, your personal resources. So your money, your finances, your time and energy as well are personal resources. But this can relate to, whatever, like it's like using your skills and talents to get your basic needs met. And it can involve our sense of like self-worth, how we value ourselves and what we place value on. So, but very much an opportunity here for you to really start something new in relation to, your resources and growing a greater sense of stability there. So there may be an opportunity to make more money, to invest, to potentially, it could literally be something like you're switching banks, or you're getting a handle on your resources in some way, managing, like learning how to manage them better, that sort of thing is possible. It could be that also, like in a very practical sense, this could be planting a garden to grow your own food so that you rely less on other people, and there's a greater sense of food security. So this could be something around food security, definitely. This could be something around, planting some seeds around growing your sense of self-worth in some way as well. In such a way that doesn't rely on external validation or external input. Like Uranus and Taurus there is disrupting things, is changing the status quo in that area of your life. And so the idea here is to put some roots down, plant something really that is hardy. If you think about the idea of planting for your zone, whatever zone you're in. Like I'm in Northern Ontario, and like we don't plant necessarily, you know, olive trees and you know, citrus groves and things like that, because we have a short growing season. So we have to pick crops that are resilient to the conditions here. And so it's that kind of thing. It's building that sense of resiliency in relation to your finances, right? So, and your sense of self-worth and resources in general. So that's for you, Aries. And I'm going to move on to Pisces now, where Pisces, you have this new moon happening in your third house. So, just a sip of water, Pisces, my fellow water sign. I know you get it. So, got to stay hydrated, right? Anyway, so Pisces, for you, this new moon is happening in your third house. So there is something new transpiring, or something new for you to initiate, to some new seeds of intention being planted here, or that you're being called to kind of to plant in relation to your immediate environment, which is the third house, right? Which is like, it's whatever goes on the day-to-day kind of for you, in the sense, not like the sixth house, but in the sense of like the people that you're in contact with regularly. So siblings, cousins, neighbors, you know, community members, that sort of thing. It can, teammates, peers. It can have to do with literal communications, right? Back and forth, like how you communicate, the messages being exchanged, technology, commerce, commutes, short trips. These are all third house things. Thoughts, ideas, teaching and learning at a more early years level, right through to high school, or just learning the basics of something. So those are all third house themes. And so there's something here that is calling you to really plant some seeds that can grow some strong roots and grow with a sense of resiliency to whatever disruptions, you know, may transpire in the future. And so yeah, it's really quite nice. Like I'm thinking about there can be something going on with like siblings or cousins that involves nature, getting outdoors, gardening, you know, resources, that you're like you're planting some seeds there. There's some new inkling or idea or intention there. This could be a new, like you're thinking about, if you're somebody that has a business, a new marketing campaign, a new e-commerce, you know, situation. Something having to do with technology. This could be like a new cell phone, a new computer, a new laptop, a new vehicle. You know, intentions set around that. And whatever it is, though, it's like it has this solid, like it's a workhorse. You know what I mean? In Taurus, has staying power. Look for something that it will go the long haul kind of thing. I'm trying to think what else. You know, if this has to do with teaching and learning in some capacity for you, then I mean, it could be like you're writing a gardening book or starting a gardening blog. It could be that you there's teaching somehow around food or money or resources happening, or learning about that, learning the basics of that. It could be that You're starting some kind of a community garden, that sort of thing. So these are just all things that are coming into mind. Or you're engaging in, with your community in a way that is potentially new, or you're putting down roots in that regard. So that's for you, Pisces. Next, we're going to move on to Aquarius now, where we have the new moon transpiring in your fourth house. So for you, Aquarius, this is about your roots. It's about your family of origin. It's about your place of living. It's about your, it could be about real estate. It's about your sense of emotional security. It's about, mother figures, parental figures. So there's something new transpiring here. There's a new way of being, right, in this fourth house. And it's like, maybe you're planting the seeds. So for example, like maybe you're looking at, like, you want to buy a house in this crazy market, and you are looking at, you're starting to plant the seeds there, like, or you're quite literally putting down roots somewhere, right? You're moving somewhere, and it could be like to a different location, or just to a new place of living in your same town or whatever. But you're putting down roots there, or you're making an investment in something that you'll have for a while, right? And it's like a solid investment, like on a property or something like that, or it can have to do with doing renovations to an existing house or building or something like that will benefit you in the long run, bring a greater sense of stability, maybe bring in more resources, or you're like, you could be like beautifying a place, making it more cozy and comfy, bringing in some simple pleasures, as Taurus likes to do. It could be a new beginning in terms of, family relating, or mothering, or relation to mother figures in some way. And like I was saying in the introduction, there's really, the idea here is to plant new intentions in this really fertile soil of Taurus, and to really have those roots grow strong, and whatever you're planting there to grow strong and resilient, and be able to kind of withstand the potential disruptions that may occur with Uranus there in Taurus, right? And so, for example, like if you are planning on buying a property or a house, this is just a simple example that illustrates the point, to maybe make it so that it's sustainable, right? You're not going to break the bank buying a property in an inflated market, and then you have a Uranus transit, and something shakes that foundation, and then you can't afford it, kind of thing. So like, it's just to be to be mindful about these things, and to have patience. If you've got the cash and you're investing in something like that, and you're able to wait it out and go the distance, then that's ideally Taurus, right? That's fine. But just be mindful about that. But really a nice opportunity, and you've got some support there, like I was saying, from the Pisces and the Capricorn areas of your chart, where there may be people or situations that are lending you some support, some help in the long run as well. Okay, I think that's good, Aquarius. I'm going to move it on to Capricorn now, where we've got the new moon happening in your 5th house. And for you, Capricorn, this is a new start, a new beginning in this fertile territory of Taurus, fellow earth sign, which has to do with your children or children in general, with, pregnancy, childbirth, that kind of thing, with your creative projects, with how you have fun in life, what sparks joy for you, potentially hobbies, and those kinds of things, sports that you enjoy. Something around those themes is being injected with fresh energy at the time of this new moon. And you can work with that by consciously, planting new seeds of intention that are it's like something that you want to really grow solid and resilient in the, in the long term here. And there's some potential help happening from the Pisces house and the Capricorn house for you, like we talked about in the introduction. But ultimately, make sure that this 5th house area of your chart, so those themes that I talked about, if there are things that you need to do to kind of wrap up loose ends in the lead up to this new moon, right, which happens on May 11th, then now's the time to take care of those details in preparation for setting those intentions at the new moon. So let's just think about an example or two here. So maybe if you're planning on, starting a new hobby, but you don't have everything you need for that right now, then now's the time to kind of take stock. What do I need to do this, or you're planning on taking up golf or something like that, for example, then it's okay, well, what do I need, and to start to plan that. Or maybe I have some old stuff I can sell to get some money to buy some new equipment, that kind of thing. Or it could be something new in relation to your children. And so there is a wrapping up of something going on, going on there. A wrapping up of some process or some situation, that somehow is related to your kids, that there's some details that need to be taken care of, or need to be certain things need to be kind of cleaned up or cleared up or released in preparation for planting some new seeds. There's something new happening for them in some way, for your kids, right? So I'm just thinking if there's any other examples off the top of my head that I could give you. If you're wanting to sort of launch a new creative project, then really, really good time to plant those seeds at the Taurus new moon. And in the lead up to that, before we get there, a good time to kind of, again, take stock. Okay, are all my ducks in a row? Do I have what I kind of need here in order to do this? What fine tuning needs to happen? Or what do I need to clear out to make space so that I can do this new thing, right? Or I can launch this new creative project. It could be quite literally, you're clearing out space in your house or your garage. You're going to open a woodworking business and you need space in your garage. So you're going to clear out space in your garage kind of thing. Something like that. So anyways, those are some ideas for you to chew on, Capricorn, in relation to this new moon. And we're going to move to Sagittarius now. So Sag, for you, the new moon's happening in your 6th house, which has to do with your daily routine and your routines around health and wellness. It has to do with subordinates. It has to do with pets, potentially. So those are the themes that are being triggered for you. And there is an opportunity coming with this new moon to really plant some good, hardy seeds that are appropriate for your zone, like we talked about, that can put down really strong roots and that can grow into, something resilient and long lasting. With that patience of Taurus that we talked about as well. And so this could be you thinking about starting a new health routine in some way. Maybe, breaking a bad habit or just working on a healthier lifestyle in some way. And it's a really good time for that, to plant those intentions and to have patience with yourself, but to also realize that, there is opportunity here for this to be something that is, that keeps you resilient, maybe physically resilient for when times get tough, kind of thing, or when, you're under a lot of stress and that sort of thing. So it could be around your health. It could be around, there could be like, in relation to health too, like some kind of like a natural process or, something involving food and nutrition potentially going on here as well. It could have to do with your daily work routine and, trying something new there, or setting the intentions for, putting a new routine in place that helps you feel more like you're on solid ground, that helps you, that is more sustainable, that you can, that makes you more resilient, to disruption, potential disruption down the road. That, like there could be like some kind of system that helps you with your daily tasks and your routine, that you can implement. What else could it be? There could be, oh, well, I mean, I can see this being particularly, sixth house Taurus, having to do with animals in some way, farming, gardening, that kind of thing. But particularly with having to do with animals, either pets or small farm animals kind of thing, that there's something going on here. This won't apply to everybody, obviously, but for some people where there's something new happening, like, you bought a hobby farm, or you're starting some kind of, you're raising chickens, you're going to sell eggs, or there's a sense of like the daily work involving something around nature or, food, or even like investing with Taurus as well, and with the trine to Pluto there as well, which is supportive. So those are some things, that off the top of my head that I can think of, but what's going on in your own life, right? And so the idea here is planting those seeds of intention in relation to those sixth house themes that I talked about. And before we get there, kind of clearing the decks as best you can, so that, and preparing the soil, so to speak, so that you can really have some good fertile soil to plant those seeds, right? All right, next we've got Scorpio. Scorpio, for you, this is happening in your 7th house. So the new moon is happening in your 7th house, which has to do with your one-to-one relationships. So there's a new beginning here on offer in terms of your close relationships. And that can be significant other, in some way. So it could be like a marriage partner or, a significant other, but it could also be like a business partnership or close friend and or family member. It can have to do with contracts, contracts and agreements. So it's a time at this Taurus new moon, excuse me. I have a frog in my throat. So it's a time where you have an opportunity to really put down some solid roots in terms of a relationship or a business partnership or a contract in some way, and to really, plant something that can grow strong roots and be resilient in times of turbulence and upheaval, which Uranus, is bringing us on and off in the sign of Taurus. So, I talked about in the intro how if we're gardening, we want to pick plants that are good for our zone, right? And not pick something that's completely out in left field. Like, you're not going to plant a lemon tree in Alaska, but unless you have a greenhouse. So maybe that's part of it, building the greenhouse. But that's a very Taurus thing to do. But it's you want to, the foundations that you're laying here should be appropriate to the situation, to the relationship in this case, because it's the 7th house, right? And you have to have patience. Taurus asks us to have patience and that sense of determination and that one foot in front of the other. And we're looking for a sense of greater stability here. So that's ideally plant those intentions in relation to your whatever relationship things are of concern to you at this moment in time, or relevant to you, even if they're not a concern, they're relevant to you. That's where you're looking at this new moon to really plant those seeds of intention, right? And what sort of things need to be wrapped up or details need to be cleared away before you can really do that. All right, so that's for you, Scorpio. Next, we've got Libra. Libra, for you, this new moon is happening in your 8th house. So this can be some new seeds of intention being planted, something new on offer here, something new taking root in your partner's, it could be like your partner's income, because the 8th house is other people's resources, among a couple of other things. But so it could be your partner's income. It could be income that has to do with things like taxes, wills, inheritance, bursaries, loans, business income, insurance, all of these sorts of things, right? Mortgages, sort of that sense of resources that are shared with other people or institutions, or that come to you through those avenues, or that go out to those places, and so there's something new on offer there, or something new that you are being called to kind of initiate there. It could also have to do with just in general, sort of your intimate entanglements with other people, right? And your sense of psychological kind of wounding and healing. So, the skeletons in the closet, right, is very 8th house. I often use that phrase. So this is where you're looking to plant some new seeds of intention that you want to grow, strong roots and resilient, healthy, outcomes. So it's not necessarily something that's going to happen overnight when we're talking about Taurus. The idea here is whatever you're doing in this area of the chart, whatever you're initiating here, whatever is being initiated, is ultimately, you're kind of in it for the long haul. It's something that you want to be patient with, and something that can ultimately bring you a greater sense of, stability when we're talking about Taurus, and potentially stability around your resources as well when we're talking about Taurus. So things like, taking out a loan to make a smart long-term investment, putting money into your RSPs, or whatever you call that in the States, I'm not sure. Retirement savings, that kind of thing. It could be writing up a will. It could be renegotiating a mortgage. It could be like taken in a different direction. It could be something like beginning a course of some kind of therapy that maybe is nature-based in some way, or nature as therapy in a sense, like getting into nature, getting more of a connection to nature, in the world of the five senses, that can really help heal you on a sort of a deep psyche level. So those are some ideas for you to think about. And ultimately, you think about your own personal situation in relation to all of the things that we talked about in the introduction, and apply accordingly, right? So that's for you, Libra, and we're going to move to Virgo now. So Virgo, for you, this is something that is transpiring, or new seeds of intention that you're planting in relation to your ninth house. And so this is all about, it's about teaching and learning, just like the third house, but it's more of at a higher level. Like, so we're going beyond the basics here, and we are, it could have to do with college, university level education, but it could also have to do with like just things that you are learning that are not sort of, the 101 variety, if you know what I mean. It can have to do with, people at a distance, foreign cultures, traveling at a distance, themes around that, your sense of like worldview and making meaning, right? These are all ninth house things. Publishing, getting your message out there. And so there's an opportunity here to start something new that can have strong roots and, lend a sense of resilience over time if there are disruptions, something that, like something that's going to be able to stand the disruptions of Uranus potentially. And so, this might be, you could be making like travel plans to go somewhere far away, but you can't do it right now, but it's like, it's in the future. And so you could be investing in that right now. Or it could be, well, I'll tell you, like, this is easy for me because I'm a Virgo rising. So, I'm building a new website. I'm learning a lot of new technology, and it is beyond the basics. And my intention is to put things out there in the world, right? And this is about teaching and learning for me very much. There are things transpiring in that, along those lines, outside of that in my life as well. There's, thoughts toward future visits with family that are far away and at a distance. There's, even thinking, and I have Pluto in the fifth house, which involves my kids, right? And so there's sometimes, like, they're getting older, there's thinking about like their future in terms of education and investing and that kind of thing. So, those are some things that give you a sense of what this can be about for you. But ultimately, the idea here is to plant seeds of intention that you intend to nurture over the long haul, and that can bring you a greater sense of stability and, maybe more resources, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I'll leave that there, Virgo, for you. And I'm going to move to Leo now, where we have the new moon happening in your 10th house. So for you, Leo, this is a new start in relation to your career, in relation to your, public legacy, or the legacy you wish to leave, in relation to authority and authority figures and your own authority, your public persona and reputation and all of that, right? So something new on offer here, and something new being seeded, and ideally you planting some seeds of intention to grow into something resilient and strong and very rooted, and that could potentially, bring you like a career move that could bring you more resources in the long run, that sort of thing. So, and there's support here, right? From Neptune in Pisces and from Pluto in Capricorn. So don't forget about that piece. So as we are moving towards this new moon, the idea is to start wrapping up the loose ends to prepare for planting those new seeds. Are there things that you need to take care of, little details that need to be taken care of, or things that need to be released, let go of, put aside, in order to make space for the new thing that's coming into your career realm, or that public realm, that legacy realm of your chart, right? So that's exciting times for you, Leo rising. And I have a Leo rising husband. And so there's some, I can relate to this and to these themes in terms of what's transpiring for him right now. So, all right, so that's for you, Leo, and we're going to move on to Cancer now. So Cancer, for you, this is happening in your 11th house. So the new moon in Taurus on the 11th in your 11th house. And this is an opportunity for new friendships, for something new happening in the realm of friendships, for new connections with allies, with people that can sort of help you reach your goals. This can be revolving around, groups, associations, clubs, networks, online communities. So something new here is on offer, or you are intending something new. It's the ideal time to plant new seeds of intention in relation to those themes for you, Cancer, and to grow something, very rooted and solid and resilient in relation to those themes. And so, this might be you initiating new friendships, or beginning some kind of online community that you're hoping to grow into something sustainable, in the long run. It can be forming alliances with other people that can help you with your resources, that can help you, some kind of group situation around investing, or around, nature in some way, around food, some kind of group association going on there. So that, I think that gives you some ideas. The 11th house is like your hopes and dreams for the future too. So you could be thinking about that and planting some intentions for where do you want to be in 5, 10 years kind of thing, right? And Taurus is about the long haul. So whatever you're initiating at the time of this new moon is something that is not necessarily like, we're not talking necessarily about overnight success, right? Although Uranus is in Taurus, who knows? but generally not speaking, Taurus is not like a flash in the pan kind of energy, or an energy that moves quickly, right? So the idea here is prior to the new moon on the 11th, what you want to do is kind of clear the decks a little to make sure that, you know, you've kind of released what's no longer serving you there, or you have let go of some things that to make space for whatever this new intention is for you in that 11th house area. So that's for you, Cancer. And last but not least, let's move to Gemini now. So Gemini, this new moon is happening in your 12th house. So something here, Gemini, that has to do with a new beginning in relation to something, you know, about how you potentially sabotage yourself, you know, maybe some bad habits, maybe something new transpiring in relation to how you spend time in isolation, or resting, recuperating, you know, that kind of thing, just in solitude. The 12th house has to do with those themes, right? And it also has to do with your spiritual life and spiritual mental wellness. And so something going on in terms of, you know, as it relates to that, some new venture when it comes to your spiritual practices or your spiritual life, potentially, you know, some new practice maybe you're intending there. This could have to do with things like, you know, places of, that we call places of confinement. So things like hospitals, or rehabilitation facilities, or spiritual retreat centers, or, I mean, in this day and age, potentially it could even have to do with some kind of online retreat in some way. But it's, you know, things even like prisons, anything you can think of like that, right? Where people are sort of tucked away from the world in a sense. So something transpiring around there, something new in relation to that. The 12th house really speaks to endings in many ways. It's the last house, right? Before we begin anew. And so there can be this sense of winding down and releasing and letting go of something, and as we know, in order for new beginnings to transpire, you know, space has to be made for that in some way. And so for you, Gemini rising, there is this support on offer from, you know, where Neptune and where Pisces and Capricorn are sitting in your chart, and those are supportive aspects. Ideally, they're or not ideally, they are supportive aspects, but they are slower moving planets. So, you know, if you're getting some kind of like support and help here, it may not be obvious to you, but it could have longer lasting sort of impact. So yeah, like I mentioned, things like new spiritual practice, new something new revolving your kind of like you know, your mental wellness, some new you know, plans for a retreat, something that you've never done before, or planning for I don't know, like, you know, like I don't want to sound morbid, but I like it could be like long-term planning for you know, maybe like a family member in relation to long-term care or something like that. Or something having to do with even investing in some kind of, you know, rehabilitation plan or facility or something like that. So 12th house is sometimes a tricky one, like the 8th house. It's a bit obscure. It's a bit hard to kind of, you know, to nail down, but that gives you some ideas. So, you know, if something is ending for you, Gemini, just know that that is like, because something new, right? Something new wants to grow there. And so it's around the time of the new moon on May 11th, and the couple of days after that really are the time to really plant some new seeds of intention that you hope to kind of grow, you know, strong roots and resilient, something that you want to grow that's very, very resilient and resistant to disruption, and the upheaval that may, you know, turn up down the road with Uranus and Taurus. So, okay, I think that's good. So that's for you, Gemini, and that's all 12 signs. Thanks for hanging out with me for this whole time, and I do feel like the weather and the Pisces moon and everything else that I have on my noggin, on my brain, is making me a little bit loopy today. So thanks for your patience with that, and I will catch you next week. And do not forget, if you are interested in getting on the mailing list for my new site, then go to astrologymaven.com and you'll get the pop-up there so you can get on the list. Okay. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.